Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Premier tells British Columbians he wants to protect homeowners, yet somehow private property rights in the Cowichan case were not argued by BC. He says the appeal is only about, and I quote, clarity, end quote. Here's some clarity that the Premier could provide the people of British Columbia. Cabinet, no doubt, has received legal advice, likely warning his government to defend private property rights in court. Will the Premier waive Cabinet confidentiality and make public any legal opinions he or his Cabinet received regarding private property rights in the Cowichan case? Yes or no?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have to confess it's a strange request, given that all of our legal documents and our arguments are on the public record and filed for everybody about what the arguments we made in that case. I just want to assure the public, as I do every time I stand up here and speak about this, is that we're taking this very seriously, including the protection of private property owners. We have a team of lawyers that are on top of it and working not only with the Cowichan, but also with the landowners themselves, directly engaging with them so we can understand the impacts and where the province needs to step in. And we're also actively engaging in our appeal and a stay application on the matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I find it interesting considering the legal advice that goes to Cabinet comes from her ministry and she isn't even aware of it. I think that is very telling in terms of what legal advice that their Cabinet may or may not have received in terms of the Cowichan case. However, the Premier tells Indigenous leaders this appeal, and I quote, isn't really about Cowichan, end quote. While he tells homeowners their rights, quote, that they should rightly be worried, end quote. Just like private property and Aboriginal title can't coexist, does he really believe that both of these other statements he made is true? So if the Premier truly believes in transparency, will he come clean with the taxpayers and publicly declare exactly why he decided to leave the protection of private property rights up to Richmond and Richmond alone, as per what the judge has said in her findings?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I've said this over and over again, and we've said this publicly, and it's in all of our legal steps that it was very important to us that we uphold the private property rights of landowners as we work through the difficult issues of reconciliation with our First Nations governments, and we've been doing that. Mr. Speaker, I invite the member to take a look at our arguments that were in at the Supreme Court of BC. And what we were pursuing on appeal and the work that we're doing. And also just, again, to when he was in Cabinet in 2015 and issued the first response to civil claim in this matter, and the arguments that we made are very similar to ones at that stage. Thank you.
Member for Prince George North Caribou.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In late 2023, Sperling Hansen Associates conducted an environmental assessment of the Cowichan River toxic waste pile and estimated at nearly 300,000 cubic meters. There is no way, Mr. Speaker, that this report didn't end up on the previous Minister, George Heyman's desk. Can the Environment Minister please confirm whether or not her ministry received this report?
Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. We've heard people's concerns about this site, and we are listening. That's why we issued a pollution prevention order on October 2nd, 2025, with the awareness of the Cowichan tribes. We take this matter very seriously, and we will be verifying compliance with the pollution prevention order at the site. We believe in working together with the Cowichan tribes in working on the pollution abatement order and the pollution orders that we issue. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member has supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 300,000 cubic meters is an awful lot of waste. There is no way that this government was not aware of that. Can you please tell me, Mr. Speaker, through to the Minister, when did this government know about this waste, and why was it not acted on sooner? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you again to the member for your questions. And I have to disagree. We have a variety of tools that we use in the Ministry of Environment to use these tools to protect the environment and look at illegal waste dumps. The responsibility of the cleanup rests with the polluter. And the province, our role here is to ensure that those cleanups are done. And we will continue to do this work, Mr. Speaker, with the Cowichan tribes and with all of our community members.
House Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In British Columbia, Mr. Speaker, Indigenous women make up 4% of the population, yet 49%, or roughly 1 in 2 women in provincial custody, are Indigenous. Public Safety Canada tells us it costs over $250,000 per year to incarcerate an Indigenous woman and almost $150,000 to incarcerate an Indigenous man. Imagine what redirecting even a fraction of those funds could do if invested instead in vocational training, education, food security, and stable housing. This government committed to implementing the BC First Nations Justice Strategy in 2020, and it is intended to lead to better outcomes in the justice system for Indigenous people. So, through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Attorney General, when will this government fully implement the BC First Nations Justice Strategy and protect Indigenous people from unjust incarceration and police aggression?
Attorney General.
I just want to thank the member for the question. It allows me to talk about some very important work that we're doing with the First Nations Justice Council. In a short amount of time, we were able to open up 15 Indigenous Justice Centres across the province, 15. And those centres are made up of really strong Indigenous leaders and legal counsel that are there to represent Indigenous people that are facing charges in the criminal justice system in order to help them with, I think, what the member is raising. A very important concern and commitment we have is to mitigate against the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in our justice system and the systemic racism that exists when they face the criminal justice system. And they are doing incredible work. My hands go out to all of those people on the front lines in the Indigenous Justice Centres that every day are working through files with Indigenous people and Indigenous women with results, Mr. Speaker. We have just launched a Prince George Diversion Centre that's there to help young people with their first offense, that's a minor offense, and connect them with their culture so we can change their lives in partnership with Indigenous communities. I'm really proud of that work, and I know it takes a lot of effort, and my hands go up to the First Nations Justice Council for helping partner with us on that work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, clearly, as the Attorney General mentioned, the government may say it's committed to safeguarding Indigenous people from an unjust system, yet we continue to see the province promote policing practices that further this violence. For example, the RCMP's controversial and heavily criticized Critical Response Unit will be enforcing this government's new fast-tracked resource and infrastructure projects. This unit is being deployed despite the RCMP's own investigation into its abuse of force and authority, both in Fairy Creek and in Wet'suwet'en territory. The RCMP have admitted that this unit overstepped its authority, Mr. Speaker, yet still this government sees its deployment fit. So, to the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, why is this government authorizing the deployment of the CRU, and how does this government plan on deploying this unit against First Nations oppositions to projects such as Sileasums?
Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General.
I'd like to thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank the member opposite for the question, which speaks to, I think, shared concerns that we have around the not only the overrepresentation of Indigenous people in the justice system, but about ensuring that law enforcement does their work in a culturally informed and safe way for vulnerable communities, particularly First Nations. This is why our ministry works in partnership with the Ministry of the Attorney General on the Indigenous Justice Strategy and on closely working with police, including the RCMP. My ministry meets with representatives of First Nations communities on a regular basis, including most recently at the First Nations leadership gatherings, to hear directly about concerns, about any concerns about the RCMP, so that in the work of superintendents, my ministry can work with law enforcement very directly to ensure that communities, Indigenous communities, are safe.
Leader of the Fourth Party.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For 4 years, the Kamloops Indian Band has been pretending to have found the remains of 215 murdered children, perpetuating the worst lie in Canadian history. And instead of defending British Columbians from this baseless allegation of mass murder, the Premier, who I see is not here today, lashes out at anyone.
Member, we don't identify members who are here or not.
Retracted, Mr. Speaker. The Premier lashes out at anyone who dares to question the claim. Now, Mr. Speaker, the very same band is advancing an Aboriginal title claim over the entire city of Kamloops, a land grab that threatens the private homes of 100,000 private residents. I condemn this band's outrageous and opportunistic claim, and I pledge my full support to the innocent and hardworking people of Kamloops. My question to the Premier is this: whose side is he on? The homeowners of BC or the tribes seizing title to their properties?
Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I find myself often at a loss for words when this member raises what is a very painful and shameful line of denialism for a residential school on behalf of survivors in this House. I want to condemn that.
Please continue.
Mr. Speaker, we stand on the side of survivors that are searching for the truth and searching for us to stand with them in pursuit of that truth, and we will continue to do that every day. And Mr. Speaker, I don't even know how to answer the rest of that question. Maybe I'll leave it at this. The history of this province and the work that we have to do on reconciliation is rooted in us coming to the table and sitting down with our First Nations partners to resolve the historic wrongs of the past and build a future for everybody in this province that lifts everybody up. And we're committed to that work and will continue to do so. Thank you.
Leader of the Official Opposition Supplemental.
Speaker, it is obvious that this government won't defend the private homes of British Columbians. It's obvious. From the very arguments that were made in the Cowichan case, where the best and strongest argument was pulled deliberately by the former then AG, neither will our courts defend the private properties of British Columbians. The disaster in Richmond was the inevitable result of nearly 50 years of court rulings that expanded Aboriginal title. Why would they stop now? Just like our Premier, they believe that it was an unforgivable sin for our founders to assume control over these lands and create a fee-simple title system. Just like our Premier, they plan to give away citizens' money, land, and power to tribal chiefs forever to pay for that sin. Mr. Speaker, my question for the Premier is this: will he agree that Aboriginal title is an insult to our founders and an existential threat to BC and its economy, which must be removed from Canada's Constitution?
Attorney General.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. I've answered this question already. Thanks.
Member for Kelowna Centre.
This weekend, delegates to the BC NDP convention voted to completely repeal this government's changes to the Name Act. When defending his own bill, the Minister of Energy said, quote, allowing dangerous offenders to hide their identity through a legal name change is extremely troubling to victims and their family and can result in safety concerns for members of the public. Yet nobody in the NDP caucus defended their bill. Why didn't the Premier stand up at the BC NDP convention and defend legislation that keeps British Columbians safe?
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I thank the member for the question. And I'm happy to let the member know that the Premier's made it clear that if there's unintended consequences to the piece of legislation that the member is raising about, we will address those. But one thing is absolutely clear, Honourable Speaker. We will not allow those who commit criminal acts to escape their criminal record by changing their name. That's plain and simple, Honourable Speaker. Though I must admit, I do find it somewhat interesting when the member talks about, reactions at party conventions, about their own party convention, Honourable Speaker. Their own party convention, Honourable Speaker. When the opposition leader used his speech to attack Elections BC and Dr. Bonnie Henry, Honourable Speaker, no one spoke against that, Honourable Speaker. When a guest speaker unfairly attacked a member of the press gallery, the delegates stood and applauded, Honourable Speaker, and not one member on that side of the House stood up, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, we've made it clear. We will deal with unintended consequences, but let's be also clear.
Stop it.
Those who commit
Members,
a criminal act are
come
not
to
going to be allowed
order.
to escape their record
Come
by
to order.
changing their name.
Member for Abbotsford West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last Wednesday, November 12th, another Abbotsford shooting. Bullets sprayed a business's window on King Road. The 9th shooting since September 1st in Abbotsford alone, and still no charges in any of these cases. This past Sunday, yesterday, I attended the funeral of a well-respected businessman that our community is still mourning. Not a single NDP MLA showed up. Can the Minister of Public Safety promise that no more Abbotsford families will have to mourn another senseless loss before Christmas? Yes or no?
Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. I'd like to start out by expressing my sincerest condolences to Mr. Sassy's family, his workers, and the entire community affected by the good works that he has done. I had a chance to attend a vigil for Mr. Sassy held in Surrey that also served as an opportunity for different levels of government to come together and speak about the work that is being done to combat extortion and to keep communities safe. And I've had the chance to engage with business owners, with families who are scared, and which underscores our singular focus on disrupting these crimes, stopping these crimes, and keeping members of the community safe. It's this that is behind the work of the BC Extortion Task Force, which represents one of the largest task forces ever assembled in BC history, that includes all levels of the RCMP, police of jurisdiction, including Abbotsford. It includes the members from the CFSEU, the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit. It includes members from the Canadian Border Service Agencies, and we are starting to see real results from their work that is coordinated and comprehensive, including arrests and charges and removals from Canada in accordance with laws. Mr. Speaker, this government and my ministry will not rest until those perpetrating these crimes are held to account and our communities are safe.
Member for Abbotsford South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and through you to the Solicitor General. You know, condolences. This family wrote a letter. They don't need your condolences, they need your action. That's what they need. Abbotsford ranks the 3rd highest in Canada for extortion-related incidents and #1 per capita, Mr. Speaker. Families and businesses are being targeted, threatened, and traumatized. I've received the personal phone calls. When will this Premier come to Abbotsford, look people in the eye, and tell them when the shootings will stop?
Solicitor General.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the member opposite for the question. And I do extend my condolences. And the fear of families, of business owners, of community members is real, which is why our government is singular in its focus and leading the way in Canada with our BC Extortion Task Force, with the involvement of Canada Border Service Agencies, which now other jurisdictions who are wrestling with these same crimes, Alberta and Ontario, are now looking at BC as a model. And we will continue to...
Members. Shh. Members. Shh. Members.
I'd appreciate the opportunity to answer. We are leading the way in Canada in terms of the work of the BC Extortion Task Force, in terms of the advocacy that our government has done that has led to the Bishnoi Group being designated a terrorist organization, in terms of the leadership we have demonstrated on bail and sentencing reform. We will continue to do this work through all levels of government. I must also take this opportunity to urge...
Thank you.
I must take this opportunity. This is really important, sir.
Members, Minister will conclude, please.
Thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to thank members of the community that have come forward with information which is directly supporting investigations in progress, and to encourage everybody with information, no matter how small, as soon as they have it, to come forward to police. This is making a difference in the investigations and leading to arrests, removals, and we will not stop this work until people are safe.
Thank you. Member for Surrey North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, I was at Darshan Singh Sasi's funeral. I am sick and tired of going to this kind of funerals. We have heard that the 3 extortion suspects are deported. Why is this NDP government hiding the reason and their identities?
Solicitor General.
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you to the member for referencing the work of Canada Border Service Agencies, which is an integral partner in
Members.
Excuse me?
Members, let the minister answer, please. Minister. Shh. Members, come to order. Please continue.
So the suggestion that we are withholding or names or protecting criminals, frankly, is absurd and is stoking fear, which is not helping the situation. CBSA is a federal agency, a key member of the task force, but Ottawa sets the rules and controls this information. The province does not have these names and cannot access or release federal immigration information. I have heard from community members who have let me know how important it is to have information such as names that they're asking for. I have to, though, maintain the integrity of investigations underway because we want. It's imperative
Members.
that the investigation's underway, that the integrity is protected, because we want them to lead to arrests, charges, and convictions, or removals from Canada if people are not in the country lawfully. We will continue to work with
Thank you, Minister.
our federal partners regarding anything related to immigration and CBSA.
Member, let the chair recognize you. Richmond, Queensborough.
This government is not leading. It's being reactive, not proactive. This extortion crisis is out of control. Lawyers are now being targeted. And if lawyers are being targeted, it's important to know whether judges and witnesses are also being targeted. Can this minister tell this House with absolute certainty that no judges and witnesses in BC have been targeted? Yes or no?
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. These investigations are ongoing, and it's important that in order to keep the integrity of the system, that those names and who is part of those investigations is not really revealed here, and it's not going to further anybody's interest to do so. I want everybody to know that we are taking this very, very seriously. I take the opportunity to what the member raised this weekend, calling on the federal government, which we have advocated for specific changes, to consider extortion a terrorist organization, or terrorist charge. Mr. Speaker, I was surprised when he raised that, because had he looked at the criminal code or looked at what we have raised with the federal government of declaring the Bishno Gang a terrorist organization, if he would have looked through that, he would know that because of the work that we were done, and anything that's committed on behalf of a terrorist group is a terrorist offense, including extortion. So we are doing the work to make sure that our criminal code and everything is there for us to go after these people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Abbotsford Mission.
Mr. Speaker, a woman in Abbotsford is now facing 13 sex offense charges, including luring and trafficking a minor. While she was at large, parents had no warning at all. Mothers like me are terrified for our children's safety in this province. Will the minister commit today to issuing immediate public alerts when a child sex offender is wanted? Yes or no?
Attorney General.
No, I appreciate this very important issue that's raised by this member. And the police have certain criteria that they employ when they issue alerts to communities, and that those alerts and those decisions made by the police are there to make sure that communities are safe. And it's certainly every time there's an issue like this raised, we take it with the utmost seriousness, and I know that my colleague at Public Safety does as well, to make sure that communities have the information they need and that people are safe. We are doing a lot of work on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to going after sexual assault, going after offenders, whether it's online or in communities, because we want to make sure that the people that are committing these offenses are properly behind bars and that people are protected from further instances of their crime, and we'll continue to do that work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the government keeps saying that they're working to make communities safer, but the bottom line is communities are not safer. In fact, they are more unsafe than ever before under this government's watch. In fact, if you look at things around the extortion cases, this government is very quick to try to take credit for things, action being taken, people being deported, yet as soon as they get asked for any detail on that, they instantly refer back to, well, that's federal jurisdiction. We can't actually talk about that. So did they actually do anything, Mr. Speaker? Or did the CBSA, which is federal jurisdiction, actually do something for a change? Because this government's inaction has led to ever-growing extortion issues in British Columbia. We hear about sexual predators on the loose and deflection away, that they can't really take extra steps. In Kamloops, businesses are reporting a 26% surge in crime, while the public safety minister says they're doing everything they can do to try to keep communities safe, Mr. Speaker. Businesses are losing millions of dollars a year of merchandise walking out the door, and they very clearly attribute it to the chaos being driven by a convergence of mental health, housing, the affordability crisis, and catch and release, because property crimes are not taken seriously by this government. They're calling on the government for a hands-on street management and real healthcare integration because they have failed to this point in keeping our streets safe. So when will the business community in this province stop hearing that the government is actually working on something and actually start hearing about the government implementing and actually delivering results that, as the Premier said, people would actually be able to see and feel on the streets? Because they're not safer, it is getting worse.
Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm happy to talk about results. The results that we're showing for British Columbia is on a very important issue that's out there, and that's public safety. The REVOI program, the Repeat Violent Offender Initiative, that's circling around over 400 of the most violent offenders
Members, please.
In the system, and going from an individual who was responsible for hundreds of calls to the police a month to none. That's a result in a community, Mr. Speaker. I want to talk a little bit also about the bail reform, bail and sentencing reform that we put on the agenda through BC's leadership that is dealing with the types of property crime that the member's raising, to saying that if somebody is coming before this justice system over and over again, there needs to be respect for the law. Those individuals need to have accountability. So right in there in the bill that's before the House and the federal government is BC's work reflected in that criminal code change to make sure that those people that are causing those the most impacts on the communities are held and not causing those impacts. We'll keep at it, Mr. Speaker, until all communities feel safe in this province. Thank you.
The bell and the question, please.